Hi guys, welcome to lesson 4.2. We're going to look at doing some formatting inside of Google Docs, specifically about maybe margins or tables, fonts, those kinds of things, looking at the different ways that you can format documents. So we're going to start with the formatting kind of menu. If we come up here to File, and you can look at Page Setup. If I can see it behind my face. Oh, I'm going to have to move myself. Sorry. Page Setup. There we go. And you'll see that we've got here in MLA format, the margins are automatically 1 inch. So if you've got those upper level kids, you can set that as the default, which is what I have right now. And so you can change those here. You can also, in this part, you can switch to portrait landscape, which most of the time we want to be in portrait if we're typing a document. But you can also switch your page color if you want. So sometimes some of the student response documents, let's say you want to switch it to that light blue color, it'll actually switch the color of the whole page. I don't necessarily want that right now. We're going to switch that back to white. But so those are some features of the page setup there. You can switch the margins in and out, or you can switch the color of the page. A lot of times, if you want to do kind of a student response or like a electronic worksheet, what we call like the scaffold sheets in the class, where we've got like questions on one side and then you have a spot to respond on the other, or question above and you respond below. We can do that. Let's say we're going to give this a heading. We'll call it, scaffold, and I'm going to go ahead and center that up like it's a heading there. One of the things you'll notice that right now I haven't given this document a title. So whatever I type initially, effectively on the document, the heading, if I just give a single click up here in the title, it automatically names it that and then shows up as being in my drive. And so that's a nice feature. You can obviously rename this up here if you want to, but whatever you name it in the heading, it automatically, once you click, instead of having an untitled document, it automatically gives it that heading. Let's say I want to give this kind of a heading font. So we'll highlight it. Right now it's on normal text. I can change it to title, and it automatically enlarges the font, makes it as a title. And then let's say I want to switch the font. So we come up here to font, and there's all my fonts here. These are some of the recent ones that I've used, right? And we come through here and we see all the fonts. So if I don't see one that I like or want to use, or I want to look for some more, there's an option up here under more fonts. And so I can do more fonts, and it actually pulls up this window here with a lot of fonts that aren't in that exact list, which I can see over here on the right hand side, the lists of fonts. So I can actually remove fonts from my list that shows up all the time, or I can add them. And so I can do a search if I know the name, but most of the time we don't know the name of the font. We want to see it visually. And so there's some filters up here that's got by the language that it comes from. Most of the time we want to do here like display, which is kind of big, bold for like a heading. Handwriting, which is supposed to look like obviously somebody wrote it by hand. And then the serif or the sans serif. And serif is like, if you know, like kind of a sharp font, and then sans serif is a little softer, sort of more curved. You can also search alphabetically. It's by popularity right now, or date added. Trending is one. If you see some, here's some like real popular fonts right now. So let's say I want to use this 20th century. So you'll notice that I get a blue check mark then when I have it next to it, because right now, right, I've got that there. If I want to add any others, let's say I want to add kite 1, I could also do the same. And we say okay, right? And it adds that to my font list. Because I clicked more than one, it didn't change it necessarily. But now when I come in here, I should see there's that kite 1 that I added. I can switch it to kite 1 then. So that's how you add fonts inside of Google Docs. If you're looking for something that's not in your list, you can do that way. All right, let's talk about the scaffold or the table, kind of the question response. And you've seen this a lot in the thinking or the assignments where there's a question on one side and you respond on the other. And that's simply done with tables. And so you can do it one of two ways. You can do the question, let's say, you know, what did you think of the video? Okay, so you could type a question. I'm going to hit return, and then you could simply go to Insert, Table, and you could do a one cell width there where the students can respond in that one cell below the question. I usually like to try to make that a color so they know that they're supposed to type in that, or that draws their attention. So if you have your cursor, then you can just go to your paint bucket and you can make it a specific color. I use this light kind of yellow a lot, shows up on white there so they know. Also, you've seen that those boxes, those tables automatically expand as you type. So if you use more than one line, it'll automatically expand. If you want to do where there's a question on one side in the table and then a response on the other, it's the exact same way. All right, we're going to insert a table, and this time we'll make it 2 by 2. Okay, where we're going to put the questions on the left-hand side, and we're going to have the responses on the right-hand side. Maybe list 3 things you took away from the video. Okay, and then I can hit down to go down there, and then if you could Skype with the author, we'll say, a question. I'm just making this up. You saw that box expanded there. I also have control. If I want, I can adjust the size of each table in and out here, back and forth. So I could grab this and I could go back and forth with my questions. I could shrink those down a little bit to leave a little more room for responses over here. Then my responses are here. If I want to color these in over here, I can just highlight those two. And then again, I can color them so I know that there's, hopefully gives students an idea of responses. Sometimes you'll see that, and I like to leave the box in most of the time, it doesn't bother me, but some people like to see their questions kind of floating and they don't want them in boxes. So one way to do that is to go ahead and highlight those two boxes. And then up here in the top right, there's a pencil and its border color. So you can actually change that border color to white, and it'll make those borders disappear and kind of make it appear like the questions are floating out here in space. Now notice, because these two shared a border, it missed. So you have to come back in here and select these and then switch that back over, and then it makes the full border. So just kind of some cool formatting things, especially if you want to create sort of that question response digitally for your students. Another thing that we do a lot is make maybe lists or columns of things. And so a really popular way, that we're sort of used to doing that is, say, let's say we do like, name of the student, and then we hit like, tab, 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 and then, the group number that they're in, tab, 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 and then topic, right? And so then we start, and it's, student's name's Joe, and tab, 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 he's in group 4, tab, 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 and they're talking about, frogs. And we make our lists or our columns that way, and that's okay. It takes a while. And also then when you want to move, notice, I don't have any tabs up here, and I could set them up. But if I want to move things back and forth, it takes a while. So instead of that, an easy way to do that would be to use the table. And so we can insert the table, and let's say, we'll just do, say here. And again, we can still do the same name. And now when I hit tab, though, it automatically jumps group number and topic. And again, if we want them to line up, let's say we want to try to match what's going on up top, I can adjust these table bars to make it match. And so I can still adjust, and it's a little easier to grab. And I can go Joe, he's in group 4, and they're talking about frogs. Notice I hit tab there at the end. If I hit tab in the last cell, it automatically creates a new row for me where I can do my next group. Again, if you want that highlighted, right? Let's say we highlight this top and you want to highlight, we can go to paint bucket, and we can highlight that top sort of heading so we can see there. And then if you want them floating out in space again, we can come in here. We can switch the borders to white so it looks like they're floating out in space. We'll have to do the one time, kind of that top header, anything that bumps up against it, and we get the same thing. So just some ways to do some formatting inside your Google Docs with the margins and page setup and the tables. Hope that's helpful. Thanks.